everybody, Jess here and welcome to March Madness. So today is day 2 of March Madness, and as you will have noticed, Katie released a video yesterday, so she is our odd numbers day along with the wonderful Miranda, and I am our even numbers day along with the wonderful Laura Alberts. So thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be releasing a video every single day in March just to keep you on your toes. You will never miss out. So I'm starting off my day 2, my very first day, with this super gorgeous layout, which is a scrap lift of my marvelous friend Daisy over at Daisy Scraps. And I am scrap lifting pretty much minute for minute her gorgeous layout that she created. So I will pop a link to her layout in the description box down below. But I am also creating this one myself. I am using a Pink Fresh Studios collection, mostly. That's what the papers are. What ephemera have I got? I've got a little bit of everything with the ephemera. Mostly not using very much ephemera, to be honest. The puffy hearts are Amy Tangerine hearts. And then I've got a few like enamel dot hearts that are hearts, not dots. They are Bohemian Dreams Cocoa Vanilla Studios, I want to say. So I'm not actually using all that much ephemera. There's those 2 tiny little flowers you can see over there, but I fussy cut those off a piece of this collection's pattern paper. So I'm really just, using a big variety when it comes to ephemera for this layout. So as you can see here, I've cut a piece of paper, that large green piece of 12 by 12. I just cut it on a random diagonal, no real rhyme or reason to it. Then I cut about a 1-inch strip of the paper as well. This is obviously a different pattern paper, but I really loved the colors, and I'm just popping that across. If you are going to do this to get the most out of your paper, it's best if you create a border, and therefore cutting your main piece of paper down a little bit. So my piece of paper is no longer 12 by 12, it is 11.5 by 11.5, and then once you glue it onto the border, it goes back to being 12 by 12. In doing this, when you put that border strip, that blue and purple border strip on an angle across the page, it will fit. Whereas if you have your page still be the full 12 by 12, that blue and purple border will not fit. Now, if I was using something else like ribbon or material or something like that I can have larger than 12 inches, and then that's no problem. Or I could put a join in my pattern paper because I am covering it with this photo anyway. But because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with that, I just cut my page down and then matted it on another page as well. So that is a really simple way to still be able to use my 12 by 12 strip of paper on a little bit of a diagonal. I made this envelope just out of a 6 by 6 paper I had in my stash. I didn't quite work it out correctly to have the love hearts mostly going in the same direction, but I think it works to have them in all directions. It's just a really thin piece of paper. I think it's actually from a paper pad that I got from Kmart. So super thin paper. I used my We Are Memory Keepers all-in-one tool to create this envelope. I have found that the We Are Memory Keepers all-in-one tools envelope measurements are a little bit off. They just don't quite work for when they say they're going to. So I've actually found I use the Stamping Up measurements from their envelope punch board. I use their measurements when I create my envelopes, if that makes sense. You can just Google those. I'm sure you could Google anyone's envelope sizes, but I personally have found that the Stamping Up ones work well for me. The We Are Memory Keepers all-in-one tools envelope measurements, I have found are correct in the larger sizes, but it's when you get down to these little mini sizes that they're not quite right, in my experience. Just popping on my title here. It's a little bit winky wonky because I popped my envelope and photo up on foam, but my title is half on it and half not, so it's got a little bit of a wobbly effect to it. I'm not sure I love it. I might go back and straighten it up a little bit better. This picture, our title here in this picture is called Hospital Adventure. So my little man was sick with gastro, knew he was sick, knew he had gastro. Then he had a convulsion or a seizure when we were at home, and we just weren't quite sure what the go was with that. So we rang an ambulance and headed off to the hospital. We then had to wait in emergency for 6 hours, if not more. We were super lucky that we had a bed, I think that is, and we weren't sent to the waiting room to wait. I'm not sure if that's because he had gastro or if that's because we'd come in an ambulance, but I'm not looking that gift horse in the mouth. Thankfully, we had a bed so he could actually sleep. If you are familiar with or you've heard of febrile convulsions, I think that's how you pronounce it. He didn't have one of those. I had heard of those and I were aware of those. They are, generally speaking, when there's a sudden change in temperature of your child's temperature. Tom didn't have a temperature, he didn't have a fever at all, and he hadn't had one at all. So that's actually what made me call the ambulance, because it was a little bit strange. I didn't think it was a febrile convulsion because I'd heard of those and just wasn't quite sure. Anyway, in the end, he had what's called an afebrile convulsion, so with a capital A. I am not a nurse, or a doctor. My understanding of that is it's pretty much literally caused by the gastro in his body, like upsetting his body, having an electrolytes imbalance essentially, and then therefore causing a convulsion. So totally fine. He is 100% fine. He was 100% fine. It took quite a while after the convulsion, after the seizure. He probably was pretty much non-responsive for 45 minutes. When I say non-responsive, he was just exhausted. He was just completely out of it. For probably a good 45 minutes until he would even blink, and then started to whimper and cry. And then just slept and slept. And then we finally got seen by the doctor at midnight, and he was pretty much his own self, and he was happy as Larry and ready to go home and starving and wanted to eat food. So all's well that ends well. But yes, it was very daunting experience. But at least if something like this happens with either of the boys again, we're much more prepared for what's okay and what's not okay, and the kind of things that happen with little ones. Anyway, sorry, a lot of backstory there, not a lot of talking about my layout. I will link Daisy's down below. I'm sure she explains it a lot better than I do anyway. Thank you for sticking around if you did. Stay tuned for tomorrow, because Katie and Miranda will have a layout to share with you, and I will see you on the 4th. Bye everyone, thanks so much for watching.